assignment 7. This is the last assignment for graphic design. It depends on the semester you're in. I reuse these videos, but for the current semester that I'm recording this, fall 21, this is the last assignment. And the assignment is to using the logo you just created in assignment 6 to create a business card. And we're going to be looking kind of at what a business identity is, so that card and the logo are tied together very closely. So I'm going to spend a little time going over this. I'm going to demo this, and we'll look at some examples of some great business cards as well. Okay, so the logo a lot of times is first in the branding of a business. Next, they would choose colors, typefaces, textures, and papers. But that also may come during the logo design, and it may come afterwards, right? For us, it's going to be afterwards. So, and what we've made in that last assignment was a logo mark. So there was no typeface really associated with it. Your logo mark will need a business name. So you'll need to, I'm going to work you through this process, but you'll need to come up with a name which is your thing. Okay, I think I've seen some of you have a name, but picking the right typeface for it, and then once that's made, then you're going to be creating a business card. Pardon me. Using the best logo you've created in assignment 6. The business card's really important because it communicates your business, it communicates your name and contact information, but even more so, it communicates a lot of non-written things, like the thickness of the card and the paper it's on, and what it just looks like at first glance. So there's a lot of things that are communicated with a card. You know, does the design look good? Is it legible? How is the logo? Etc., etc. Okay. A few notes that I'm going to suggest. Okay. Or maybe it should be suggestions. Really, designing a business card, it can be very tricky. Computer screens are deceptive because you can zoom in and zoom out, and you don't really know where 100% is or how that digitally will look on paper. So my suggestion is a few things. One, keep your typefaces used on the business card, except for the typeface on the logo. This can be larger, but like the name and you know, address and phone number and email and all that good stuff, between 12 point and 7 point. Go above 12. 12 is actually too big, but if you go above 12, it's going to get ridiculously large. And any smaller, the viewer can't read it. So I also suggest, once you complete the design, to print it out. And I do that because of that very reason, of that kind of that deceptive screen. You'll just want to see what it looks like printed out. And that's, you know, if you can do it, great. If you can't, then stick to these point sizes and just make a very good guess. But printing is going to be the best bet. So in the process, I would suggest watching this video first to see, you know, to either run through the process or work through it at the same time. I would also suggest watching the 6B Phase 4 critique video, and then edit your logo based on those suggestions that were given in the video. And to pick the very best one. So if there's one that's like, wow, this looks great, or this is your best one, use that and then make additional changes to it. Number 3, observe your logo. Look at some characteristics of the logo and really write them down. So, and you can just circle these, but I would really recommend you write some stuff. So, is it generally rounded or angled? Is it modern or vintage? Playful or business-minded? Friendly or serious? Make a note of those things so you know what direction you're going to take the logo. If it's playful, then there's some things you can do to make the logo playful, right? And if it's very businessy, then You know, we need to stick to rules of alignment and not rotating things. If it's playful, you can rotate things and play with type and things like that. Business needs to be pretty straightforward and strong. I would also note any like large distinctive shapes and see if you can reuse those and what those communicate. And then any other characteristics you feel are important. So using that list you've made, I would go and look at a typeface. So let me spend a little bit of time talking about typefaces. And when I say a little bit, I really am going to spend just a few minutes here. Let's see if I can. I don't want that. Okay. Okay, typefaces. So there are a load of typefaces, right? They're divided up into a few categories. There is sans serif, where you don't see, like this is a serif. These little end things that come off, those are called serifs. And this is the much older typeface. This has been around since the Roman times. This is sans serif, meaning without serif, and this has been around since the Industrial Revolution. Maybe a little earlier, but this is when it's mostly credited. There are some other typefaces. So a lot of these don't really have a classification. They're more decorative, right? A little decorative here. This one, or ones like this, are called script, and they look a lot like handwriting or hand lettering, and that's been around for a very long time, longer than back in Roman era. I wouldn't call, writing in Greek script maybe, but script is very old. The characteristics of script is very personable, very humanistic, and something that feels like someone's hand has been touched on it. The serif, which this is another example of a serif. The serif is vintage. It has authority because of its age. It also is pretty businessy. It's very classic. So each one of those could be divided out. It doesn't mean because you chose serif that each one is businessy. No. Like you could just say, this is a classic, XYZ is very classic. So then you would choose a serif, or it's very vintage, or it's old school, that type of thing. So this one is black letter, which is kind of another category. Black letter has been around since the Middle Ages, and it was handwriting style, written by monks generally. And we have samples called illuminated manuscripts that show a lot of this. So this is very old as well. This has a very either religious feel, or it has a few different things, and it can also be reused, kind of resampled. Some cultures use this specifically for their culture. Like hard metal can use this and has used it, like metal rock or stuff like that. Let me see, and that is generally, now there are some sub categories for, say, serif and sans serif, but no, this one is really interesting because it's rounded at the end of each letter. And what that rounded makes you feel, it feels like it's kind, it feels like there's no sharp edges, it feels like it is friendly. Okay, so if that's what you're going for, something like this is really helpful. This is a serif, but it's a very modern serif. So this very narrow and this very thick cannot be written with a calligraphy pen. There's not a pen that does that. So this is called a modern serif, and it's used in very kind of high, what's the word? Kind of high-end, very fashionable, like Vogue uses this modern serif. Let me run you down to another type of sans serif. Like Futura would be a good example of that. So Futura is called a geometric sans, and all the circles in it are, you could almost put a circle template on it and it would match, and everything is very clean and orderly. And so GeoSans gives a sense of orderliness and authoritarian. It feels very engineered, that type of thing. Let's see, so there are other serifs that feel a little, so this one's a little different. There's some thicks and thins to this. Maybe I should twist this down, we can look at, okay. So you can see it's a little thin here at the shoulder of the P and thicker on the downstroke. So this one is called either a humanist or a transition from humanist to like a geometric. So this one has a little more of a touchy-feely as far in the sans serif department. So there are variations in each one. Okay, so hopefully that gives you enough to kind of go on to maybe pick a typeface. Let me go back to, okay. So when you're picking typefaces, you'll need to pick one for the logo, for the business name, for the logo, and another to act as a supporting typeface. So make sure these typefaces complement the logo mark, like they look good with it, and there's a reason why. Don't just kind of go, I think they look good. Let me give you an example of what I've done. So this is my logo right here. The company is like a water bottle similar to Hydro Flask, something like that. So yeah, my logo has a polar bear in a like a large ice cube or a glacier or something like that, and the color is kind of cold. So I picked this typeface. This one is called Caspian, and that doesn't really matter. But this has, to me, look at the bottom of this. See how it goes down and then has a nice little curve? Look what's happening on the I. See how it goes down and has a nice little curve? Additionally, look at these sharp points on the F and on the dot on the I. They're sharper. They're not circles. And this is a serif. So, and then I go, oh, these are pretty sharp up here, which reminds me of kind of what's happening with the typeface. So I have some round, kind of serif-y feel. Even the negative is kind of like a serif, right? This white area, serif. And this is sharp. So this is the one I've picked to match this. Also, this bear is very soft. Generally, there's like a lot of curves to it, and so I've made sure that this has some really nice curves in the G's and the J's and these downstrokes. Okay, one thing I wanted to mention was kerning or tracking. So let me type this up again. Okay, and if we look at this, this letter has some odd spacing in between it. So to me, it feels like this is a giant space between the U and the G, and then maybe both sides of the G are kind of large, but the R and the I and the F and the R are kind of close together. And the I and J and U, this area is about what I want. So what I'm going to do is close up or open up, in some cases, the distance between these. And this is called kerning, and it can be a little tricky to kern well. A few things to keep in mind. One is if you were to dump, now this is just like there's no rules. It's kind of it's a very subjective. But if you were to, the way I picture it, and I've been told a few different ways to do this. So one is to pretend like you've dumped sand on the top of this, and then you go, where would that sand really flow through? Well, I think it would flow through here very quickly and here very quickly. So what I'm going to use is the type tool. I'm in Illustrator, and I'm going to click on right between. So here's my cursor. I'm going to bring up my type palette, and this is the kerning setting here. This is tracking, which notice there's a cursor in between V and A, and you're pulling that together, where this one they're highlighted. So in other words, if you wanted to do the whole word, you would use the tracking. Okay. If you wanted to do a pair of letters, you would use the kerning. So I'm going to move my kerning down a bit there, and I'm going to kern this in a bit here. The shortcut that I've found is if you use Option and then your arrow keys, that will kern. And I'm kind of pretty happy with where that is right now. And I've already kerned this one up here, so I just wanted to talk about kerning so you could get an idea. Another way to kern is to look at just 3 letters at a time. So if I was looking at this FRI together, I might be, want to go in and make a slight negative to the F and the R. And then after I'm happy with these 3, then I move to the next 3, R, I, G. And so I'm not going to touch this set, but I will touch this one so it matches this first distance. And in that way, you'd go through all your letters and kern. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our instructions. A couple things in picking typefaces, because you're going to be picking 2. And what I've done is I've picked this one called Caspian, and then this one called Helvetica New. And these are different enough, yet I feel they go together decently. And why is that? It's because, see, some of the letter shapes in here in this Caspian are somewhat similar to letter shapes in Helvetica. Also, they kind of play against each other a little bit, like they're not exactly the same. If they were the same, then, or if this were another sans serif, why would we have this a sans serif too, and they're going to be slightly different? Make them kind of drastic different. And I've found that if I make the one that goes with the typeface that goes with the logo have a little more personality, then I can keep the one that supports it as a little more neutral. And this Helvetica New is very neutral. So it's very legible. It's almost like it's not making a statement nearly. I mean, if I wanted to, I could have picked something like Garamond. So let me just roll to that. But my concern with, so this is kind of a similar, but in the sans serif feel. So this almost has like a, it's kind of neutral. It's like a vanilla ice cream, and a lot of different things go with vanilla ice cream. But this is a sans serif. So I preferred this serif to go with this sans serif logo. Okay. So anyway, just wanted to kind of touch on choosing 2 different typefaces. Typographic textures are if you change sizes and weights and italics and non-italics, and if you do those not just randomly but with intent or with some meaning, then you can get these typographic textures in, which really do help the design. Okay, so the next thing, number 5, is to explore where to place that name in conjunction with the business, with the logo, with the logo mark. And if you've noticed, I chose a vertical layout, and then I also chose a horizontal layout. And I think logos are, it's really nice to have a vertical and a horizontal version of logos, because there's just so many different applications. You can tell, like if I were to see this on a business card and this on a brochure, I would know it's the same place for sure. It's just a slightly different way of showing the logo. I could play around with the size of this, like this might be a more appropriate size. I don't know, but it's something to play around with. Another thing to consider if you're sizing is the baseline up to the X height. That's the height of the lowercase characters. They make lines, kind of implied lines. So, and then the idea is, what can I match up with those lines? So I could match it up with the baseline of this, the bottom of the iceberg, or I could match it up with like what the bear is standing on, like this. So they're both, so both the type and the bear are standing on the same surface, which might be interesting as well. And you can also look at like how tall things are and do they align. So look and see what's existing on your logo and make some relationships as to where that type sits basically, and how big it is. So if that's that baseline, I might want to increase the size you know, to here, so my X height is the same as the bear. What I don't like about having it match where the bear is standing is now the edge of the F and the edge of the iceberg don't match. So I'm going to roll back to where I had them matching, because I thought that was kind of nice. I liked that. I thought that was valuable. Okay. Now, as far as selecting the colors that you feel are similar to the feeling you're making with your logo, I feel like mine is obviously very icy, so I've picked 2 different blues to represent the colors that I'll be using. Kind of a cyan and kind of a medium royal, not even a royal blue. I'm just going to call it a medium blue. So cyan and medium blue, and I think that I've pulled out some textures of ice that I think kind of match the feel that I want to go for. And I might use these on the logo somewhere. And I've also brought in some other some like little, I don't know what you call these, like I think these are off types, like a snowflake typeface. So what I'm going to do actually is trace this. Right now it's a picture, and just to make sure it's traced and ready to be used, I'm going to trace this as a black and white logo and choose expand. And then I'm going to ungroup it, object, ungroup. And then I'll click away from it, and then I'll delete the, let me make sure I'm ungrouped. and then I'll select the white and delete it. So now I just have the black as a, so it's a vectorized image now. And I'm going to do the same with this one. Just do image trace, line art. I didn't want that. I wanted the black and white logo. And then expand, and then ungroup. I'll delete the, so now my logos are, or now my marks are ready to go. It looks like I have some more white that I need to get rid of. Okay. I'll run some business card designs with you. Just kind of talk about them, go through some good examples. Let me start with this, and I'm going to show you a couple of identity programs. So this shows a letterhead. This is where you'd type a business letter on, and it's all branded together. It looks like it comes from the same place, doesn't it? So we have a business card. This is a old-time Rolodex. I'm sorry, letterhead, Rolodex, business card, possibly. These look like more like invitation letters. Here's a number 10 envelope that you'd put the 8.5 by 11 in. And these could be business cards. I don't see the back of them, but at least you get an idea. This is also an identity system where they show signage on a building. Here's different menus and matchboxes. You can see their logo, a typeset black letter O with little oak acorns and oak leaves. There you can see it applied to a plate and stuff. Okay, I guess, and here's the written out logo. So this one, Los Piano Publicus, here's our business card. And this one's a vertical one, obviously, and so they have, the logo is a vertical here. They're playing, here they're kind of playing with it. It's very fun and friendly colors and type treatments and logo, how it plays up and down with, you know, the vertical, the baseline shift of these. 2015 guide. And again, here's our logo, our letterhead envelope. Here's a close-up of the business cards. So you can see name, position, maybe what they do, but phone and email. And, you know, however you get contacted through a business would be appropriate. Okay, so what we're seeing here are some pretty nice business cards. This one I think are actually edible, I believe. So memorability is important. I love that this one says, if this is embossed here, so it actually, the paper stands out a little bit. It's called emboss or deboss. And then they actually either drill or punch holes in this, and it kind of feels like salt a little bit, right? There's an embossed logo. More, so it's embossed, but it could be like letterpress is another similar term. Letterpress is the process, and what happens is they use embossing and ink. Basic logo, name, position, and then contact information. Here's a different, these look like little slide holders, which is kind of cool if she's a photographer. And because photographers have used or do use slides. Depending on the camera you're using. This one's really interesting as it's just type, and it's really dependent on how it's set. Paul Rand, are you familiar with Paul Rand? I think you are at this point. So these look like little paint swatches, interior, exterior, and renovations. Number, email, not sure, salt. This one's kind of fun where it's not legible until you pull it, and then it says personal trainer. So you're in the act of, you have to do something to make it legible. This is kind of fun where it's a very simple business card, a business name, and then here's the contact and name on the back, but you do have these wine marks. I'm not sure what these are, but I think they're cool. So what's going on here? This is either, I think this is an ink and an emboss on these, or a letterpress to get this type on here on this matte paper. Really looks sophisticated. Very fun with these like partial letters scattered around. I love this Jewish museum up the side, and then contact information. Front and back. Front and back. You can see this is embossed a little bit. This is a letterpress. Nice logo. Really clear. And look at all the textures they have going on. The little logo with the name. Here's one texture, a couple bars separating, and then here's how to get in touch right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, but they match nicely. So like get in touch and Grant Blake, and this is probably all the same type, and then just in different weights and sizes and colors. And then this is a different typeface. But so they're keeping it either in a family or something quite different. So in choosing typefaces, that's pretty important. Transparent card. On wood, so I think this is like laser engraved. So a lot of options. Please look around and see what you like. Don't just go for it. I think it's important to look for, especially if it's your first time doing a business card. If you haven't done 30 of them, please look around because it's really important. Don't like that at all. So some of these are tongue-in-cheek, right? So this is a divorce lawyer. There's a perforation, so the card splits in half, which goes along with the whole concept, right? Some illustration. You could include illustration on one side if that's appropriate for your business. Let me keep going. So I don't know what this might be a baker, personal chef, something like that. Garage culture, made out of something besides paper. It might be I have no idea, but playing around with substrate. This is like a little soccer game. using some little sketches for a texture in the background, a pattern with the name, Illustrator Designer, and then some contact information here. Yeah, anyway, good stuff. A lot of good stuff. So look around and, you know, if something's appealing to you, how could you apply that to your business and your logo? Okay, let's move on. Right, moving on, next. Now you can select paper or textures to strengthen your identity. I've done that. Now I'm going to go into Illustrator and make a new two-page document in Illustrator. And using the Artboard tool, I'm going to resize those pages to be business card size. Here's how that happens. So we'll go into Illustrator, we'll go File, New, and here's the new document window that pops up. You could go print. I'm not sure if they have the presets for a business card, but they're 3.5 by 2. Yeah, I'm not going to look around for it. I'm going to change the points to inches, and the width is 3.5 and the height is 2. And then I'm going to do it to have it to 2 artboards, and I can change this later on in Illustrator under properties. So I'll go edit artboard if I want, and then I can change it to portrait. But it's really it'll just change the one that that I have selected. Okay, so those are that's my front and my back. And so now you'll want to, you could place, so it's kind of, you'll want to do thumbnails sometime, and then you'll want to place all your elements on the business card pages. So let me bring up my thumbnails to show you what I've done for that. So here are my thumbnails, and I mean, my first thoughts were, okay, put the logo on the left, and then all my business information on the right, starting with the name, title, just like I had. And then I went, okay, well, we'll try that on the top using my horizontal logo and kind of divide that up, the information. And then I went, oh, maybe vertical is the best route. And then I went, well, let's do horizontal and I'll put like one of my colors, either the dark blue or the medium blue or the cyan, and then put my type in that, and maybe a snowflake on the left. And then I went, well, let's go back to this one. The simplest might be the easiest. And then if I change the size of the logo and put my information in here, and maybe a snowflake, a really, really light snowflake perhaps. And then I'm like, well, maybe icons. So I wasn't okay with that. And I'm not sure if this is where I ended up. Haven't really decided that yet. But this is a card that's cut out in the shape of my logo, which I think is a pretty cool idea. Anyway, we'll kind of see where that goes. I do kind of like this idea, but I think this one might be the better one. And then my plan for the back is to do that ice texture on the back. So let's go grab all my elements from the previous page. And I'm going to stick with this one rather than this one, because this one has some bubbles and also some a little bit of the lighter blue, the cyan in it. And I wanted that. So I'm going to grab all of these plus that. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to place it in here. And I'm going to move it off the side of the artboard. I'll move this one over on the to that back of the business card, and I might just keep a copy of it up here. And it was a little larger. And then on this one, I'm just going to crop it, and we'll just zoom in to see how to do that. I'm just going to drag these corners out so they match the page width, and then I'll hit enter on my keyboard and it kind of puts that in place. I'm going to select these two, and what I'm going to do is group them together, object group. So now they will keep the spacing, and when I size, and if I hold down shift as I size, they're not going to distort, and that's what I want. I want to keep them undistorted. Okay, that's really large for that business card, so I might move it down to there, and I'm just going to refer back. Okay, so logo, kind of small, about halfway, and then all my information flush left on the right hand side of the page. So here we go, we'll try that out. Maybe a little smaller. I can adjust that. We'll see how that is. Okay, and this type might be a little large right now. It's at 12 point. Yeah, that's pretty big. So let me just move that down. So what I may do, and so it's just not one giant like paragraph, I might break this up a little bit. So I'm going to probably put some space underneath. Let me open up paragraphs. Yeah. So I'm going to put some space underneath graphic design, and so what I've done is clicked on properties and scrolled down to the paragraph, and then click the dot to expand it. So now I'm going to put a little bit of space underneath graphic designer, and then I'll put it underneath the put some more space, about the same actually. Let me put a little bit more into that. I'm going to pull that out so I don't have to keep. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to try 4 under that. And then I'm going to put space underneath the email portion as well. Yeah. And I'm not totally sure about this. I think everyone understands what a phone number is and an email is, and even a website, especially if I start it with www, but I don't even think I need to do that. Just the .com, everyone knows what's going on. The Instagram, I could either put an icon, the logo here, a little small black logo, or I think, can I put an @ symbol? I think that's, let me double check that. I'm not totally sure how to write an Instagram handle. Yeah, an @ before it. So that's what I'm going to roll with. So something like this I think would make sense. I still feel like it's a little too large perhaps. So I might go down to 9.5 and then bring my my leading up a bit. That's feeling a little better. I think I might change my actually, I'm going to bring over some. Oh, I have the colors there. What am I thinking? Of course. I'm going to select some colors. Let me put 2 colors in here. One is that, and one is that. So, and we'll just grab that blue. Maybe. And this graphic designer, just to add some texture, typographic texture, I'm going to change that from Roman to italic. sure. That's a little too tight. Yeah, that's better. Now I'm going to look to see how it looks right justified. And I'm going to pull this away from the edge so it feels a little bit more breathable. That was really tight against the edge. Now this has like a little bit of breathing space, and it's about equal to this breathing space. And I could measure that just to make sure that it's the same. Also, something I might want to consider if I bring up rules, Command or Control R, is this baseline and how, am I sitting? So it's like crossing my name weird. But if I bring it up on that same line and then hide that, how does that look? I don't mind it. What I may do is so what I may do is like, this is supposedly the business address, but personal phone and personal email, but business Instagram and business website. Trying to make this fit. I'm going to try to capitalize all these. And then in here, this will bring up. So now all I really have is like my title and you know what, I'm not even sure if we actually need a physical address. So I might just repeat the name. And I might try putting it down there within, maybe. And now I can use some tracking, center that. And yeah, here's my tracking. And I don't love how big these things are here. They seem a little bit, oops, too big. So I'm going to bring the baseline, shift them up a little bit, copy that, and I'll paste that in here. Oops. Copy and paste. Okay. Now I don't want to get too close to the edge of the card because it may be difficult to print. Really don't love this yet. I don't like all this crap down here. So what I think I'm going to do is just delete the address, the physical address, and then I'll come in with Friggy Jug and friggyjug.com. Delete that. Maybe just try to keep to my original design. That's crazy. Okay, we'll try this here. We'll just enlarge that. Something like that. And I'm going to back that off so it's really, really light. So that's a very businessy type business card. And then here's the back of it like this. Pretty, acceptable. What I'll probably do on this rectangle tool, just to kind of clean up my this overflow with this thing. So this is I could leave it on there for bleed, but for presentation, I'm going to remove it. Oops, I wanted to delete those. I need to select that too. Now I can do it. Okay. Better. Just delete that and so there's perfectly acceptable business card and back. Now if I wanted to, I could go grab that, my logo, which I think this would be just a little bit nicer, in my opinion. And I'm going to delete that. And we'll delete that. And I'm going to bring this down here, bring it to the front. And we'll change that to white. But I don't want the ear and the eye white. So I'm going to select the whole thing and use the shape builder and hold down the Alt or Option and delete those. Okay, so that's the idea. In fact, I could even take that and change the opacity of it. If I go to Properties again, and opacity might look cool. Don't know, maybe the drips stand out a little too much and I need to, yeah. So we can try that. Anyway, so that is, those are some, I've taken those elements and I've placed them on those business card size, and then I'll save this and put it into my process book and just bring everything together into my process book and submit that. So this is going to be due December 10th, and you'll also have a December 10th, this is for the fall semester, September 10th deadline for your process book. All right, thanks everyone.